Welcome everyone to the No Fear Investing Show with your hosts Mike McKenzie and Nathan Amaral. That would be him and me. And if you're new here to the show, post new in the comments, or if you've been around and following along, let us know by saying hello, and we'll say we might say hello back to you. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, welcome to the show. It's good to be here. And Mike, we have a very very important topic today. We talked a lot about saving more time, and I don't know if it's because it's the end of the year, things we should do, not do, be more productive. But before we get into that, let's talk about client success and what's happening on the rise with our clients. We have off the top, unfortunately, I heard Sarah's sick, which is sad. That's just a sad thing.
I hope she's feeling better.
I hope she's feeling better. Yeah, because that's no fun. And then we have, I was chatting with Nick today. Nick's closing on 2 seller finance deals, I think literally simultaneously, or if not like back to back, but the conversation went well. I was helping him get set up on the owner financing side. He had a few questions, got them answered, because sometimes, setting up that process can be a little, I don't want to say a little tricky, but there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of new paperwork that needs to be done on the owner financing side. Good stuff, and I know I'm sure there's a lot of other great things that our clients are doing and making things happen in their life and in their business. By the way, if anybody's here, I know Donald's here. If you want to share any updates as well with us, you can do that in the comment section. That way we can share it on the show. All right, so Mike, today we're talking about, are you wasting time on the wrong things in business? Mike, have you ever wasted time on what at first it might have seemed right, but then all of a sudden it was wrong?
REI Conversion is a complete system to help you simplify your land investing business. With our core land management and CRM tool called REI Pebble, it streamlines the entire process of land investing. From automated printing and mailing of your offer letters, to easy document generations for contracts, to purchase agreements, all the way to tracking and managing your property's buyer and seller leads. REI Pebble helps you and your team save time, automate, and organize, allowing you to run your land investing business from anywhere and giving your land business the tools and system the chance to scale and grow. Get an exclusive extended free 30-day access into REI Pebble today. Take advantage of our low bulk mailing rates with no commitments by going to www.fearlessmillionaire.com/pebble.
Yeah, I have. And, it's funny we bring this topic up, and I actually, in this weekend, for those that don't know, I didn't know what the topic was the whole weekend. So yeah, but it's funny how things work out, because with my son in college, my neighbor's son across the street is getting ready to graduate from college. We actually talked about, where you need to be putting priorities, not wasting time, so to speak, but focus on the right things, not the wrong things.
Yeah.
So it kind of played hand in hand. Yeah. What sometimes, especially when we try to do things on our own, I know, and I'm speaking from experience, Nathan, what I perceive as the right thing to be focusing on is really sometimes can turn out to be such a minimal thing that I've wasted God knows how much time, days, weeks, or whatever, focusing on something that I really should have been putting all that energy toward another part of the business, and let that either somebody else handle it or let it just lay dormant for a little bit and focus on the money-making aspect of it.
That's so true. Well, I think you bring up a good point, and I want to even share a little nugget that has happened to me and does happen sometimes, is I think when we get, like, whether it's something new, like maybe a new process or a new part of the business, when we get new at it, we kind of like go deep into this hole and we say, okay, I got to figure it out. I got to do it and make that happen. But I will tell you something that's helped me out in those kinds of moments when I realized I was like, I shouldn't have even done this in the first place, is talking to a coach. That has helped me dramatically. And it just reminds me of just recently some of our clients were actually doing like this one thing before they came into our program. they were doing this one thing or a few things in their business. They had these processes and it wasn't working for them. It just was not working for them. Then when they came in and we analyzed their business, they were like, oh man, I wish I had done this way, or I wish I wasn't wasting time doing this or that. I think about that so true for even myself. Sometimes I'll just get so like refined on a specific task. And when I step back and say, you know what, I need to jump on the phone with somebody. I need to say, this is my frustration. This is what I'm working on. Is there a better way to do this? Have you ever like made that phone call before, Mike? Have you ever had that happen to you?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think that I'm doing the right thing, and then maybe a light will come on, or talk to somebody else in the business. But you mentioned a coaching thing. That's what a coach, or at least as I see as a coach, one of my biggest priorities is to make sure you are focusing on the correct things in your business or the right things, so you don't go down those wrong roads.
Yeah.
If I'm not telling you, no, you don't need to really worry about that yet, you need to be worried about this aspect, we're doing a disservice if we don't let them know that.
Yeah, that's very true.
And like you were talking about some of our clients, we got in there, analyzed their business, and within 2 weeks they had properties under contract. They got properties under contract now.
Yeah.
After a year of trying to do it on their own without it happening.
Right.
It was just because they were focusing on the wrong steps. And that quick of a turnaround, they've already got deals going down. Mm-hmm. They're getting ready to market the deals and things like that. Just that quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually not only shocking, I think it was more shocking for them rather than us, because, it's like, yeah, we know. But it was definitely shocking for them. And that's what it does. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Or, it's kind of those moments where like, I should have done that first. But you don't know what you don't know. And until you have someone with experience to look at the situation and say, hey, stop doing it that way, do it this way, makes a big impact. We've talked about this so many times on their show, and also in our, in our one-on-ones with our clients and stuff, is the fact of delegating tasks. We've talked about virtual assistants. We've talked about, focus on what your strengths are. And I know this topic keeps coming up, but it also can stop a lot of people. Like, I think it's actually a bigger challenge for most people about changing, or delegate. Let's talk about the word delegating and for a second. And I want to ask you first, and then I'll chime in about what was maybe your hardest part for you about delegating the time wasters for you.
Like letting loose and delegating that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
A couple things. And one thing I'll say before I tell you what it was is that I find myself, and I still have to keep myself in check sometimes on this. A lot of times I will focus on tasks. I have a list of tasks. We talked about lists.
Yeah.
I'll focus on the easy stuff when the easy stuff may be not really, that could be the wrong stuff to be focusing on. The little bit harder task may be what I need to be making money in the business. I got to focus on that, but I want to lean toward the easier stuff sometimes just because it's easier to do. Maybe it's mindless things that I don't have to think about. Just doing it, taking care of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest thing for me in letting loose on things and focusing on what I needed to, and not necessarily wrong things, but things I didn't need to, was, I hate to admit this, and I will never admit it. And if you ever show this recording to my wife, I'll kill you.
Should I send her the YouTube link so she can like and subscribe?
It's been said I'm a little sometimes controlling of my stuff.
A little.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with the statement.
Okay.
But in my business world, it's because that's my baby and that's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to trust someone else to do it, because you always hear this old act, nobody's going to do it as good as you are. Well, there's a little bit to that. Yeah. But if you train the right people and they do have a desire, they will do it right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I feel like when you say that though, I feel like I'm a bad parent. I feel I'm negligent. Because the first thing, and I can hear the words of my wife in the background, but I feel like I'm negligent because when I get a task, immediately I start thinking like, who's going to do this task, right? Like, who's going to do this? Because I literally have my tasks so refined, like I know what I'm good at, and it's like, boom, I'm just going to do that. And then I start like delegating really quick. However, to prove your point is correct and true, because there's points in time where you do need to hold it as your baby. And this is where the words keep coming back is I've been told so many times that, Nathan, when you are in control, when you are in the front line, things just get done. Like they get done faster. They get done faster and they move quicker. Yeah. But that's a tough balance because of course we could say, hey, you got to do everything yourself. And I think there's you got to have that balance because you don't want to be in control of everything and not delegate. And you don't want to be delegating everything and nothing gets done. Like be the passive manager that never checks up on his people, right? So it has to be a happy balance there. But I think it's important. I mean, your style is good, right? To a point. My style is good to a point until, there's got to be that middle ground, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we all get caught up in sometimes it's good to take a step back from your own business just to make sure you're seeing it. Look at it as objectively as you can. I recommend people every quarter, you should step back and look at all your processes and everything and make sure that the emphasis or focuses are on the right areas of your business. Because it's ever changing. I mean, real estate's ever changing. You got to change with things. It's just something that you need to do. I know this week I actually was approached by a VA, or he was one of my VAs, but he's branching out and he's like wanting to take over everything. And I'm thinking, well, let me step back and look at some things. I'll give you a check. He's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But I'm good at, I trust him. So if I can give him the opportunity to do more, and get some stuff off my plate, I may do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of looking at and analyzing your business, I don't normally have paper on my desk, but I have some today, and I kind of wanted to give everybody an exercise that they could do. And it's simply, you could do it with one sheet of paper, but basically you're going to fold it in half. And at the top of one side of the page, you're going to put, your biggest time wasters. You put big time wasters on the top of one side, and on the other side, you put the things that you speed right through, right? So speed through and time wasters. And the reason why you want to split it up in the middle is so that you literally can look at it only on one side at a time and not both at the same time, right? So you look at it on one side and you say, okay, immediately you're kind of drafting a task list, right? So you say, you know what? Here are the time wasters in my life. Who am I going to delegate this to, right? Who am I going to give this task to? And I think, Mike, can you tell me what you think about this? If you can't say in your life that you don't have anybody to delegate some of these biggest time wasters to, I think someone who says, "Oh, I don't have someone to delegate to," I think they're really missing out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're missing a boat completely. I think that they're looking. You gotta listen. Your business, if you don't delegate, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
So many days in the week.
Wait,
your business is going flatline.
Did you say there's so many days in the hours? No,
hours in the day, days in the week.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So there's, you can only do so much as one person, and keep this in mind too. You say, well, my business is a good place. I'm putting in a lot of time. Okay, what do you do if you want to take a vacation? What if you don't feel well for a week? I mean, you got to have these things in place because we don't know what's going to come up in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing it all,
Yeah.
What happens if you get hit by a truck? God forbid,
Yeah.
I don't want you to get hit by a truck, but I'm
Right.
just saying.
Right.
You got to look at those things.
Yeah, and I think this reminds me, and I'm not trying to pick on him, but unfortunately, it reminds me of one of our members, Donald, who was running, fell, and like split his arm and hand. Right, so he was like half capable of writing and typing. Right, so. Okay, so that's like an example of, oh no, I can't do almost everything, right? I'm limited in what I can do. That can sometimes push someone into the direction of, oh, I need to, if it was only me and I lost both options of my arms, being able to use both use of my arms, what am I going to do now, right? So hopefully no one has to go through those kinds of situations, but those can be an eye opener. And like you said, what happens if you got hit by a bus, or what happens if you're not able to do these kinds of tasks? What are you going to do, right? What's going to happen at that point? I think it's better to delegate or start delegating sooner rather than later, and that will, especially when it comes to the things that you're wasting time on, that you're just trying to figure out. I'm sure, Mike, you've probably been in the situation where you've tried to like figure out a problem for hours, and then you're like, why didn't I just find somebody or hire it out? Yeah. Mm.
Well, and what another big key thing people need to realize in delegation, one of the key things that you've got to be as a delegator is a good communicator. Because you got to be able to communicate. We talk about, let's say you can't use your arms or hands or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you a good enough communicator that you can communicate effectively each thing? And I know at some events we do together that there's one thing, and I cringe every time you do it because it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's where you take two people, one person's blindfolded, the other person has to communicate to them how to get through this maze without stepping on a piece of paper or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a good tool.
Right.
It shows how effective communication is.
Sure.
If you can't effectively communicate, then how are you really going to delegate out to be done correctly?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I agree with you. Communication is really important. It's funny you bring up the word communication, because here I am thinking of tools of how would we delegate and where would we get the people, right? And you bring up a good point of the abstract, the communication part. And that's really important. When I think of delegation, I start thinking of tools, like how am I going to communicate this communication to the person I'm delegating to. Let's just talk about tech for a minute.
Imagine that.
Imagine me bringing that up. No, but let's talk about tech. What's your favorite process of communication with your VAs? Like, what's your primary tool, software?
I'm a little old school basic. I like the email stuff. I like it because when I'm explaining stuff, I get very detail oriented sometimes. Mm-hmm. I look at it in two ways. Number one, it's written down. Yeah. So I can look back at it. And of course I like the Zoom stuff, but emails are really good because if they email to me and maybe it's 3 a.m. their time, I still can communicate back whatever it is. Yeah. And they'll get it when they get up or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also like sharing. I mean, and there's a lot of softwares on the market out there.
And you use Skype too, though, right? I rember you said you use Skype.
I definitely like Skype. Yeah. And I think it's important sometimes that you see one another. Yeah. Their body language tells me a lot. If they're there and they're, got 20 other things happening around them, they're not looking at the conversation, then, how engaged are they really in it? Yeah. Skype is things. If you have a software program that maybe you communicate with, I like a lot of software things, and people ask me what's the greatest. Pick out what works for you.
Yeah, there's so many. True.
But there's task things in most of them. You can task somebody with something, and then they can go directly to that task. It will take them to that task. Right. I like those tools in different softwares.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's two that they're both in different ways. They both operate differently. One is like I like to record my screen. I know you do this also. I use a service called Cloud App. I think it's like cloudapp.com or cloudapp.io or something like that. Which basically, and you could do this with people could do this with whatever, a screen recorder. But basically, I like to record my screen, communicate out what the issue is or what needs to be done in what way, the operating procedure, and then I take that clip and then in an email I'll like, okay, here, watch this video, step 1, step 2, step 3, and I'll map it out. And I'm sure there's probably like a better way to do that, but I also put it in emails. The other thing I was going to mention that I like to use is Asana, which is project management. Now, you're familiar with Podio, right? Like
Right.
we've used Podio.
Yeah.
But for me, Podio is like a little too techy. I like Asana, same type of software, just the design is a little different. And it has what you mentioned about delegating tasks. Like you can see a whole project and then you can delegate that task to that specific person. And that works out really well too, because then you know, okay, I gave them this stuff to do, and you can literally see it on your phone or on your computer or your tablet, how far along they are with the project, which is really nice. And I've used that at different points of my business. It depends on what project we're working on or what's happening in the business at that time. But those are two things that I like to use. Keeping track. Would you say you're good at keeping track of, like good management? Or I would take it you are, because you said you like all the it's your baby, right?
Yeah, and I try to set up follow up reminders and things, just to make sure things are done and tasks are followed up. I think that's important. Just staying on task with stuff and just following up and making sure it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, true. All right. And in closing, I want to know, Mike, from you, and if you don't, I know I always like to give you like those last minute unprepared improv questions. But I wanted to know, is there something maybe recently, maybe in the past 3 months or something, that going based on our topic, is there something that you felt like you were doing and you were just wasting a boatload of time on it and you're like, oh, I should not have done that? It's like a specific thing that you can think of. You want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Yeah, you gotta go first, because I guess
Okay.
I'm probably narrowing down which one.
Okay. Yeah. So I was looking for some talent. I was looking to hire somebody. And I couldn't find the type of person I was looking for. I was looking for someone with a unique skill set in web development. So unique skill set, like they had to be able to do this specific thing. And I kept looking and looking and looking. And finally, after like days of looking, and even getting to the point of talking to other people about it who have no idea what I was referring to, I was just like venting. I finally came back to thinking, I've wasted so much time. Why don't I just find a recruiter? And that's what I did. I found a recruiter who would help me find those kinds of people, because I wasn't familiar with that type of work that they could do. And the recruiter ended up finding me 3 people to interview and pick one of them. And they were all great candidates, but I wasted so much time trying to find that specific person. And that's how I feel like I've wasted so much time in the past 3 months. Very specific, task. And at the time, it seemed so small. I was like, oh, I can find this person. It's just a small, it's a little thing. But it ended up taking too much time. And what I did not do was I didn't say, hey, if I don't find this person in like an hour or 2 hours, whatever it is, then I need to do something about it. And I didn't, and it went on for days. So that's an example of mine. Do you have any?
I don't have anything truly specific. I do have one thing that has helped me, and I've done it probably in the last 6 months, and I try to implement it more.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of touched on it, what you were talking about, is setting those drop dead time limits on when this is going to be done.
Yeah.
This needs to be done by this date. Instead of dragging, because I would waste a lot of time and drag things out that really, if I would have blocked off the time, done it, and could have focused on something else. So a big thing of mine is being very task oriented with the time limits on it and get it done. And I do my day that way a little bit too now. Like I obviously every day is a little bit different, but one of my first things I try to do is respond to all the important emails. Now somebody's going, I haven't responded to somebody's email. And they're going to think, but now my email. Like, knock out. So, and then I can focus on, even if it's to say, hey, I read your email. I need to put a little bit more time. Let me answer that more this afternoon. Yeah. Where I can focus more on that. Yeah. That sort of thing. Just knowledge.
The best part I heard about what you just said was I need to put time, time stoppers, is that what you call it? I need to set
time stamps or whatever.
Time stamps and just be like, okay, if this doesn't happen and I got to do this for 10 minutes, I got to do this for 15 minutes, and just really hash it out, because if I don't do that, it's going to get messy. It's going to get like into the hours, and that won't be good. But
this is a perfect time for this topic. We're wrapping up a year.
So true.
Everybody should already be thinking about their goals for next year.
That's so true.
And that should be it. How am I not going to waste time in 2021? How am I going to better use my time? By focusing on the right things and not necessarily the wrong things.
It's so true. Yeah, and for everybody listening, at the end of every year with our clients, we have a goal mapping sheet that we send to our clients. Even when they're coming on board with us, we send them a goal mapping sheet that they have to fill out, and then we send it out at the end of the year, because sometimes those goals are achieved at the end of the year and you got to create new ones. And sometimes there's some that haven't been achieved, so you got to reevaluate. So if you're looking for that or interested, you could contact us, or you could check the link in the description. In the future, this will be somewhere in the link in the description, and you can check that out. But Mike, it's been another great topic today. Thanks for everybody for joining in. And Adam, good to see you. Donald, good to see you here. And we will see you guys next week. Mike, see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.